Hi there and welcome to Yarnspirations.com. In this video we're going to learn how to do two-color brioche knitting to make the beautiful brioche accent knit cowl in Bernat Softy Chunky in two colors. You'll need the yarn, 2 balls of each, a size US 11 8mm circular knitting needle 36 inches 90 centimeters long, or size needed to obtain gauge of course, and a stitch marker. We're going to learn how to make this beautiful, densely patterned and completely reversible two-color stitch pattern while working in the round. Let's get started. Now the first thing we're going to do is the first round, and that is setting up our work to work in the two-color brioche pattern. So I have cast on the number of stitches specified in the pattern, which is 124. I have less than 124 in the sample that I'm doing on camera, but that's so I can get to the end of the round and show you the next thing to do. So you want to set up to work in the round, being very careful not to twist the stitches. You want to make sure that they are all facing in the same direction and that you are not knitting a twist into your cowl. And just to put a very important point on it, when you are doing this type of knitting you need to cast on very loosely, because there's so many yarn overs, as you'll see, makes the work grow in width a little bit. So make very sure when you're casting on that you have a nice loose cast on, and if you're concerned about it, it's often a good idea to cast on a needle size 2 or 3 sizes bigger than the work you're going to make. So let's take a look at that first round. So we've cast on in A and we're still working in A. So it's knit 1, yarn over, slip 1 purlwise with yarn in back. So the yarn over, I'm going to bring it between the needles and head it over the right hand needle. And the yarn is in the back now, and I'm slipping 1 purlwise. My yarn is in the back, so I'm ready to knit 1. We're going to do this all the way around. Knit 1, yarn over, so bring it between the needles and over to the back, slip 1 purlwise, so left to right, as if to purl without doing any farther work, and it says WYIB, which is with yarn at back of work. It's already back here. So knit 1, yarn over, slip 1 purlwise with yarn in back. Knit 1, yarn over, slip 1 purlwise with yarn in back. So what's happening on every other stitch, the yarn over is buddying up with the stitch that it went over. So when you hold this on your needles, it'll look like 1 2 1 2 1 2 all the way around, and that's correct. The yarn over is sitting on top of the stitch. Knit 1, yarn over, slip 1 purlwise with the yarn in back. Knit 1, yarn over, slip 1 purlwise with the yarn in the back. We're going to do that all the way around to the end of the round. Knit 1, yarn over, slip 1 purlwise with yarn in back. So I'm going to keep finishing up this round and I'll meet you right back here. So here we are at the end of the first round, and once again, like I said, if you look at your work you can see 1 and then 2 together, 1 and then 2 together, 1 and then 2 together. So I'm just going to drop color A and let it hang out there. I'm not going to need it for the next row, but I will for the one after. I will slip my stitch marker from the left hand to the right hand, and now I'm going to start with my B color. Now I'm not going to tie a knot or anything crazy like that. All I'm going to do to get started is pick up a fold maybe 6 to 8 inches, 15-20 centimeters in from the end. I can weave it in later. So this round, here now we got settled, this round begins with a yarn over. Then it's slip one purlwise with yarn in back, YF. That's a new abbreviation for us. It's yarn forward, or bring yarn to front of work, purl two together. So yarn over, slip one purlwise with yarn in the back. So the yarn is already headed to the back. That's where we want it. So we're going to slip purlwise. Now it says yarn forward. I want to bring the yarn under the needle and between the two needle tips, so I'm ready to purl, because my next stitch is purl two together. And the purl two together is where those two strands were next to each other. Remember how I was saying it goes 1 2 1 2 1 2? The twos are the purl two togethers, the ones that are sitting right next to each other already. So let's try that again. So we finished a purl, so the yarn is here. So we're going to begin the yarn over, slip one purlwise with yarn in back, so the yarn's in the back, yarn forward, bring it around between the two needles, so under the right hand needle tip, but between the two needles, so you're set up to purl, purl two together, and that's those two strands of yarn, those two loops that are right next to each other. Yarn over, slip one purlwise, yarn forward, purl two together. Okay, and this is another one of those things, we're going to do this one round over and over. Yarn over, slip one purlwise, yarn forward, purl two together. One more time, yarn over, slip one purlwise, yarn forward, purl two together. Okay, and we're going to, let's take a look and see what that looks like. So now what's happening, as you see your strands next to each other and you see 1 2 1 2 1 2, the twos are two different colors. They were not that way after the first round because we were only using the one color, but now we're going to see those twos are going to be two different colors that we will work together. So keep going on with this round all the way back to the stitch marker, and then we will take a look at the third round. Now I'm coming up to the very end of the second round, and I just want to remind you that that last stitch before the stitch marker had a yarn over on top of it, and sometimes when you're working it can flip around a little bit because that's the beginning of the round. So make sure when you come up to that last couple of stitches, it's yarn over, knit one, yarn forward, and then purl two together. Make sure that you haven't lost that very last yarn over just in putting your work down or picking it up. So that's the end of the second round. So now we're going to drop the B color and just let it hang out, and we're going back to the A color, which is sitting here waiting for us. So for the third round with A, well, let's move that stitch marker out of the way, knit two together, and now they're going to be one each of both colors because we have our color work going now. So knit two together, yarn over, slip one with yarn in back, and the yarn's already headed for the back because we've yarned over already, and our next stitch is a knit two together, so the yarn's already back there, so it's not quite as fiddly on the third round as the second. So knit two together, yarn over, slip one with yarn in back, knit two together, yarn over, slip one with yarn in back, knit two together, yarn over, slip one with yarn in back, knit two together, yarn over, slip one with yarn in back. And once again, we're going to just repeat those movements all the way around. Now, one of the things I want you to notice is what looks like a vertical column of stitches, a vertical column of stocking stitch, is all going to be the same color. These don't change colors. So since these are A, they're all A. All right, so we're going to go ahead and finish the third round, and then we go back to the second round. All you need to do for the entire rest of the piece is alternate the second round in the third round until the piece measures about 12 inches or 30.5 centimeters long. And then there is a final round, which is purl 2 together, knit 1, so that you can bind it off, because you want to get rid of all of these extra stitches before you do the bind off. As you get a few more rounds put on your piece, it's easier to see how the pattern lines up. And remember how earlier I said when we were looking at the right side of the work, we were seeing vertical columns of stitches in A. If you look at the reverse of the work, and technically that's not the wrong side because it's a reversible stitch pattern, you will see that you will get columns of the B color of the work. So the piece is reversible. You'll just have one color popping on one side, and you'll have the other color popping on the other side. I hope you enjoyed this lesson in 2-color brioche knitting, and that you have a great time making your brioche accent knit cowl. Thanks so much for joining us here on Yarnspirations.com. We look forward to seeing you again soon.